Metal Gear is a stealth action game series created in 1987 by auteur game designer Hideo Kojima. While the series is infamous for its long cutscenes, convoluted, unplanned storyline, and pervertedness, it's also highly regarded for its lovable characters, unforgettable moments, highly replayable gameplay, and pushing the boundaries of what's considered possible for video games in terms of cinematic presentation, game design, and narrative depth. Action games have come a long way since the shoot-'em-ups of the 80s, and the Metal Gear series played a big role in elevating the medium to a point where many people have been moved to tears by the stories of modern action games. Unfortunately, after the explosive breakup between Hideo Kojima and Konami, the series has remained dormant since the release of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Unless you count Metal Gear Survive, but why would you? Even worse, the games were more or less left to rot on out-of-print systems. Some of them even got delisted from digital stores. Would-be newcomers kept hearing about this really cool game series that they had to buy a PlayStation 3 just to play, or go through a bunch of hoops to set up a stable emulator. As the series became less accessible by the day, things never looked more dire. But thankfully, in May of 2023, it was announced that Konami would finally revive the Metal Gear franchise. On top of Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, a remake of one of the most beloved entries in the series, it was also announced that the games would finally be ported to modern systems as part of the Master Collection series, starting with Volume 1. Both these games will be available on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, and Steam. Master Collection Volume 1 will also be available on PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. Though keep in mind that the PS4 version is digital only, and the Switch version is capped at 30 frames per second, for some reason. For the first time in years, things seem to be looking up for Metal Gear. Longtime fans now have hope, and it'll be easier than ever for newcomers to play these incredible games. Unfortunately, even with these ports, getting into this series can be pretty intimidating. The controls are a little weird, the story is told out of order, and my god, the plot is confusing and all over the place. There's like 4 or 5 different characters who go by Snake at some point or another, and even the press gets them all confused.
No! That is not Solid Snake!
So, with the dawn of a new era upon us, we at the Snake Soup want to help out any newcomers learn the ropes. Question 1. What order should I play the games in? The correct order is to start with Master Collection Volume 1. Thank you for watching, make sure to like and Alright, I'm kidding. The official Metal Gear timeline consists of 8 installments, 9 if you count both parts of Metal Gear Solid 5 separately. There's some debate if Portable Ops and Metal Gear Rising Revengeance should be included, but if we went into all of that, this video would be an hour long, nobody would watch it, and nobody would be convinced anyway. Just to be safe, let's stick with what Hideo Kojima and Konami's official website consider to be part of the main series. Much like Star Wars, another 9-part unplanned epic saga, the Metal Gear series likes to jump around the timeline a lot. As such, some may think that the story would be easier to follow if you play the games in chronological order. Let me tell you right now, that's not the case at all. Even though Snake Eater, Peace Walker, and Metal Gear Solid 5 all take place earlier in the timeline, they assume you've played the games that take place later in the timeline. So the ideal way to play through the series is in release order: Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, and finally, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Admittedly, you can probably get away with playing Snake Eater first, especially with the remake on the way. Even though there's a few winks and nods to the earlier games, the story is pretty easy to follow even if you haven't played them. But otherwise, going in release order, starting with the original Metal Gear, is absolutely mandatory.
Acclaimed author and beloved culture fanatic Solid Cynic here. Nobody's going to play these ancient NES games.
They're not NES games, Saul. Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake were developed for the MSX, a Japanese home computer. The NES games are completely different. Read our articles on them.
MSX? I don't know anything about that. I think if they were worth playing, they would already have announced a remake using the Fox engine.
But the Fox engine is out... You know what? Fine. If you want to jump right into the original Metal Gear Solid, you can go into the game's special menu and read the previous operation summaries. That said, I strongly recommend playing the MSX games, as they're often overlooked and greatly underrated. Metal Gear 2 in particular is a phenomenal hidden gem. So much of what the series has become famous for, immersive stealth gameplay, cutting-edge graphics for their time, themes of nuclear deterrence, microbiology, how war and politics tear people apart, Big Boss being a Volcel, and much more all started with this game. Playing the MSX games before the Solid series not only gives you a better appreciation for the evolution of the series, it also better connects you, the player, with the character of Solid Snake. Instead of simply hearing about all the cool stuff Snake did in Outer Heaven and Zanzibar Land, you get to recall your own first-hand experience.
You plan to take that thing on by yourself, Snake?
It won't be the first time.
Ah.
Having said that, playing these games blind can be a little intimidating, so we've linked some of our walkthroughs in the description. Question 2. What should I do before playing the first Metal Gear Solid? 1. Watch the intro. Don't press any buttons until the main menu appears. 2. The first Metal Gear Solid still uses this button to confirm, while this button's cancelled, even though it's been updated since the HD collection for Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and even the 8-bit games. We don't know if this will be patched or not, so if you're stuck in the game's menu, try the other button. 3. Select the special menu option and read the previous operation summaries of Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. This is especially important if you're skipping them, but even if you've played them, these summaries help expand on and clarify the events of those games. Though keep in mind that some of the names are different and the text has some English. Sons of Liberty has a similar feature, and while worth reading, it's not as essential. 4. Select the briefing menu option and watch the tape. When the tape ends, you'll be shown the briefing menu. But there's a hidden and very important tape if you exit immediately afterward. 5. Make sure to play through VR training. This will help you get used to the game's controls, which is especially important if you've only ever played games from the past few generations. The series didn't have modern third-person shooter controls until Guns of the Patriots. 6. When you finally start a new game, you should probably play on easy. There's some parts later on that can be very frustrating on higher difficulties, especially if you're used to modern games, so just make it easier on yourself. Don't feel too bad. What we in the West call easy is just the standard difficulty in the original Japanese version of the game. For all the other games though, I suggest playing on normal, or solid normal in the case of Guns of the Patriots, if it ever gets ported. Question 3. What are some general tips? Metal Gear fan and speedrunner Perfect Stealth has a more comprehensive video on tips for beginners, but since you're already here, we'll give you some pointers. 1. Make sure to save often. Autosaving wasn't standard in the series until Peace Walker, so until then, you'll need to handle that yourself. This is especially important for the first Metal Gear Solid. Besides, mailing sometimes has handy advice. 2. Call everyone on the codec every now and then. The first 3 Metal Gear Solid games are jam-packed with interesting, completely optional calls you can have with your various codec contacts. You can go through all of the first Metal Gear Solid without even calling Nastasha Romanenko, which is a shame because she has some of the most interesting conversations. If you want to hear my personal favorite conversations, call Campbell and Nastasha after you finish a sniper battle on a snowfield. Tomokazu Fukushima did a great job fleshing out the story and characters with these optional codec calls, and his absence can be felt with Guns of the Patriots' somewhat lackluster codec. 3. This is the back of the game's CD case. Pretty cool, right? 4. Contrary to popular belief, you can actually run and shoot at the same time in both Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. You'll simply have to hold down the weapon and crawl buttons. 5. This is most important. Don't submit to Ocelot's torture. If you do, you'll get the non-canonical ending, and you'll be even more confused than you normally would be when playing later entries. You'll also miss out on key information from the post-credits conversation. If you do end up getting the bad ending though, you'll at least unlock the stealth camo, which will make your next playthrough easier. The game is only a few hours long if you skip all the cutscenes, so it shouldn't take too long to have another chance at getting the good ending. Just don't skip any cutscenes after the climactic fistfight, and again, stay tuned after the credits. Number 6. Speaking of post-credits conversations, every Metal Gear game has an important post-credits conversation, and in the case of Peace Walker and the Phantom Pain, the game actually continues well after the first credits, so always make sure to stick around after the credits. Question 4. I finished all the games in Master Collection Vol.1. How can I play the other games? As of the publishing of this video, the only other Metal Gear games available on modern platforms are Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, which come bundled together in Metal Gear Solid 5 The Definitive Experience. We currently don't know when Master Collection Vol.1 comes out or what games will be part of it, though it's a safe bet that Peace Walker will be included. Despite not having a number in the title, Peace Walker is a pivotal entry in the saga, especially since Metal Gear Solid 5 acts as a direct sequel. But if you can't wait and want to jump straight into Metal Gear Solid 5, you should at least read the backstory section in Ground Zeroes' menu, and listen to all of the briefing and pause tapes. Though keep in mind that both Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 5 spoil a major revelation from Guns of the Patriots. As for whether Guns of the Patriots can be ported at all, it's not as impossible as some think. Despite its reputation of being intrinsically tied to the PlayStation 3's unconventional architecture, Kojima Productions actually got the game running on Xbox 360 development kits. The reason it never got a 360 port is because the game is a whopping 26 gigabytes, while 360 game discs can only hold up to 8 gigabytes. This is no longer an issue, now that Blu-ray is standard for both PlayStation and Xbox, and digital distribution is more commonplace. You might be missing out on watching Snake smoke a carton of cigarettes during game installs over and over again, but you know, he needs to cut down on his smoking anyways. If, for whatever reason, Guns of the Patriots doesn't end up getting ported, then I recommend reading the novelization by Project Ito. In fact, Kojima recommended that newcomers read Ito's novelization in order to better understand the saga, so it's worth checking out even if you've already played the game. It looks like physical copies are out of print and very pricey, but you can still get the ebook. If your PC is powerful enough, you could also try resorting to more, legally questionable means in Minecraft. But if all else fails, just watch Metal Gear Solid 4 in a nutshell by Super Go-Go Man.
Nanomachines, nanomachine.
Nanomachines. Nanomachines.
Nanomachines.
Question 5. I played the entire Metal Gear Saga. What do I do now? Beating all the games is only the beginning. There's so much to analyze and discuss, it can get overwhelming. To help with this, we've assembled a list of documentaries, essays, videos, books, films, and fan-made parodies as a resource for anyone interested in diving deeper into these games and their influences. Click the link in the description. If you're a fan of Hideo Kojima's storytelling, then I highly recommend playing his non-Metal Gear work, Snatcher, Police Knots, and Death Stranding. Death Stranding is available for PlayStation 4, 5, Steam, and is coming to the Mac App Store and even the iPhone 15 Pro. For Snatcher and Police Knots though, you may need to resort to more, covert means. In Minecraft! If you want to dive deeper into the mind of Hideo Kojima and his influences, then you should definitely read his book, The Creative Gene, which recently got an English translation. I also suggest listening to his Spotify podcast, Brain Structure. Currently, the independent Kojima Productions are working on a sequel to Death Stranding, a separate project for the Xbox ecosystem, and a third unannounced project.
3 things happening. うちのスタッフ2つですよ。僕は3つ。
Yeah, the staff is working on it. The third one is in my head.
They're also collaborating with Hammerstone Studios on a Death Stranding movie. If you want to stick to the Metal Gear franchise, there's many spin-offs that are worth playing. Our personal recommendation is Metal Gear Ghost Babel for the Game Boy Color, titled Metal Gear Solid in the West. It essentially plays like a more refined version of Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, and features a great story that acts as an alternate sequel to the very first Metal Gear. Ghost Babel shows that, as impossible as it may seem, it is indeed possible for there to be good, traditional Metal Gear games without Kojima's direct involvement. There's also the 2 Metal Gear Acid games, which are card-based strategy games with a storyline that's even wackier than the main series. Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops and Metal Gear Rising Revengeance are both divisive entries in the franchise, but they both have their fans, especially Rising, due to its resurgence in meme culture.
Don't fuck with this, Senator!
And then there's Metal Gear Survive. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully these spin-offs will be included in a future Master Collection, either as bonus content or as a separate collection after the main series gets ported. If not, well, you could always play Minecraft. During their time under Konami, Kojima Productions also developed several other non-Metal Gear games, such as the Boktai and Zone of the Enders series. While these games were all produced by Hideo Kojima, he didn't direct any of them. Both Zone of the Enders games were remastered as part of the HD collection, which is backwards compatible for Xbox consoles. The second game, Zone of the Enders: The Second Runner, was again remastered for both PlayStation 4 and Steam. For everything else though... Minecraft! If you can't get enough sneaking around, then you're in luck. Metal Gear has inspired a number of stealth games, such as the Splinter Cell series, Mike Bithel's Volume, and the parody game on Metal.
Bless you.
As for the future of the Metal Gear series itself, well, it's complicated. On one hand, Kojima always wanted the series to live on without him.
So even after I die, I still would love to have the Metal Gear Solid series continue. But, as a creator, of course, I want to do something new, and I don't want to be limited to Metal Gear forever, right? So, of course, I have tried in the past. I've tried to hand Metal Gear off to other people within the studio, and I've tried to raise people up so that they have the ability to take over.
On the other hand, due to various circumstances, he never found a proper successor he could confidently pass the torch to.
But for some reason, it just never really works out, and I end up having to step in again to take charge and kind of fix things here and there, and just get sucked back in, unfortunately.
And with this split from Konami, Kojima lost the ability to hand off the series on his own terms. This is why, before leaving Konami, Kojima declared that only the games he directed are part of the Metal Gear Saga, and that even if the franchise continues, to him, the Phantom Pain will be the last Metal Gear. With that said, a lot of the original Kojima production staff are still at Konami. They seem to be using Metal Gear Solid Delta as a way to get their feet wet working on a big project on their own without Kojima's guidance. Drawing within the lines of someone else's work can be a good way to eventually make your own work. While we at the Snake Suit may prefer it if the series finally definitively ended, I say we should look forward to the future of the series with cautious optimism. Conclusion. The Metal Gear Saga is known for dealing with themes such as the threat of nuclear annihilation, the horrors of war, the military-industrial complex, and the impact of the digital age on the human condition. But by far, the biggest overarching theme in the saga is about what we pass down to future generations. Genes, memes, no, not those memes, the scene of the times, an individual's sense of the world, the illusion of peace, a lust for revenge, and something about race? I don't know, that was a weird one.
We need to pass the torch and let our children read our messy and sad history by its light. The human race will probably come to an end sometime, and new species may rule over this planet. Earth may not be forever, but we still have the responsibility to leave what traces of life we can.
As one of the longest-running Metal Gear fan sites, we at the Snake Suit welcome the next generation of Metal Gear fans with open arms. Thanks for watching.
Wow, that was f***ing gay. They didn't even give any Metal Gear Online tips. And anyone who thinks that base GigaChad games like Portable Ops and Metal Gear Rising are divisive are just whiny SJW cucks.
I'm disappointed Konami didn't use the superior Twin Snakes for Volume 1 and 60 FPS 1080p in 2023? Where's my 4K high-def ultra realism 120 FPS? See, this is why we need to remake them all, so Snake's Hand can have bump mapping in FPS mode like that Unreal Fan remake. Konami, hire that man!
Wait, bro, I got an idea. What if we made our own Newcomer's Guide? Like, the Bros Guide to the Metal Gear Saga. We can explain how Big Boss is the true hero of the series, and how Quiet is actually Dr. Madnar. I don't know who Dr. Madnar is, but I saw his name pop up when browsing the Metal Gear Wiki.
To be honest, I'm kinda burned out on this series. I have to pay alimony, and my kids seem to like old games anyways. It's weird. I just don't have the mental energy needed to be pretentious about video games anymore. Plus, if I wrote a beginner's guide, it'd just say, play MGS Delta and whatever remake Konami puts out next.
Well, f*** you! I'll make my own Newcomer's Guide, with blackjack and hookers! In fact, forget the Newcomer's Guide.